Hi, this is Carolyn, and today I'll give you two ideas for things to do with all those jelly prints you have hanging around. My first pitch is to make trim tape, and my second pitch is to make printed jelly prints. So to make the trim tape, choose a jelly print that isn't really viable for anything else, that has interesting colors maybe and interesting shapes, a little bit of variegation. And I cut mine into 1/4 inch strips, but you can use, of course, any width you like. And I'm cutting it, as you can see, on a quilt cutter. So I'm using a quilt cutter ruler and a quilt cutting mat, and I use one of those quilt cutting roller knives, but you can also use an X-Acto knife, whatever, maybe even scissors. And I'm gluing them together just using a piece of scrap paper on top of a magazine with Mod Podge. And it makes a pretty long tape, one of these jelly prints. This is only an 8x10 cut into 1/4 inch strips. And then I use that tape to trim cards and sometimes trim some other jelly prints to smarten them up a little bit, or I use it for other crafts. My second pitch is to use the old jelly prints to make new jelly prints. And I've been having so much fun and success with that lately. I'm sharing here as an idea. You can see what you make of it. And then over the next few weeks, you'll be seeing some of my work, and I'll make a few more YouTubes for that. So I keep all my jelly prints in folders. I guess you do too, folders or boxes, whatever, but don't throw them out. Even all those transfers that don't work, don't throw them out. Really, if nothing else, you can use them as rolling papers for your brayer, right? But I've been going through my jelly prints and trying to find some of the interesting colors that I enjoy and interesting shapes. Even though the whole print doesn't work out, there are lots of little bits that are super interesting to the eye. Often, as with the one you see me cutting here, I really enjoy the textures or shape I got. I'm really thrilled when I pull them. But in the end, my game with these jelly prints is to make art, and that one wasn't really working as a piece of art, and I couldn't see my way through it, so I put it in my pile to use as one of the cut-ups for a future jelly print collage. So for me, these collaged jelly prints are different than using jelly print to make collage. And there's two reasons for that. One is they seem much fresher and more spontaneous because initially I was doing them upside down, which I'm not doing anymore, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And secondly, I love the surface of the actual collaged jelly print or jelly print that is made from collage itself. So you can see here I am putting some transparent acrylic medium onto the jelly plate so that I can pick up the jelly print collage that I just designed there on the left hand side. I pick up the plate and I put it on top of my design so that I know that this is going to be the top show, right? This is the part that's now against the jelly plate, so I know it's going to look good. I placed my pieces, organized my colors, whereas the first few times I was making my collage jelly prints, I was kind of winging it and putting them on upside down. That's when I really got interested in this because I got some really super fresh results. So low-grade paints are perfectly adequate to pick these up. It's just acrylic medium, it completely works. And lately I've been mixing my colors, little scrap pieces of paper instead of using them fresh out of the tube. So I mix this one with a little bit of blue for interest. So it's a pearlescent white with a tiny bit of the same Craft Smart but more opaque blue mixed in, just a drop. And I got this gorgeous color. And I put the paint on the back of the collage elements so that I don't get any blobbing, because when you roll over the collage elements, the paper gets a little wet and sometimes it lifts as you roll, sticks to your roller, especially thinner papers like wettable tissue or deli papers. So you have to be really careful at this point to roll carefully and to also go fairly quickly so that you don't have to use too much paint and so that your collage elements don't wrinkle too much. You'll see in a second when I pull it, the results are just stunning. The whole jelly print is completely smooth because it's under the acrylic, even though you've used collage. So it's one piece of art, it's one print, combination, collage, jelly print. It's just lovely. You do have to really, really concentrate on this part. Give it some time. I push the pieces right into the edges of the plate and go all around them, because if you have some paper that's a little bit thicker, you can sometimes get a little white halo or a shadow. So use your fingers to make sure that all your edges are really pressed down. And you don't have to wait too long because you're not using too much paint. So as soon as the plate comes up clean, you can pull it off. And it's hard to appreciate on video how really, really nice this looks. This print is smooth. It looks almost like a print. Because I use thin paint, it doesn't have any whiskering or mushy, bumpy layering. The collage is embedded into the paper almost. It's just really nice. And here I am using the same trick I featured in one of my earlier videos for finishing off your jelly plates, and I used a window around it, and it looks dynamite. So let's make another one. And this time I'm making one that is made of jelly printed jelly prints that I've torn up. So those stones, one on top of the other, the blue one I just made, if that doesn't work out or I don't like it, then I just tear it up again and do more. So another fun way to spend an afternoon is to just tear up your jelly prints willy-nilly and put them onto the jelly plate as a collage, like I just showed you, and then tear them up again. So you get a whole combination of wonderful abstract shapes and bits and pieces that you can then use in other work, including if you're an abstract artist, a painter of big paintings, your paintings. So you can get all these little pieces and make interesting marks and on paper and put them on the jelly plate and smack them up against your canvas or your board. So what I'm doing here, just for a little interest, I'm using soft chalk pastels and scribbling onto paper. You could actually make a nice drawing and turn that upside down onto the jelly plate. And this chalk, like charcoal, sticks to the jelly plate. So now it's behind your collage, right? Just imagine the potential of all these layers and layers of interest. So there are the scribbles on the jelly plate. And when we pick that up with paint, it doesn't move because the lines stick to the jelly plate so well. Unless you rub it with water, they'll stay there. So now I'm putting pearlescent white again onto the jelly plate and a little bit of gold on the bottom. And these are both still the Craft Smart paints. And you can see that the collage material is wrinkling a little bit there. We may be able to remedy that. If we're not, well, then we're not. There, that's a beautiful abstract. It might not be your vibe, but if you're an abstract artist, it probably is. And here's the end result. And again, putting a window over it just elevates it and turns it into art. If you like what you see, subscribe to Carolyn Hazard Art.